The favourites to get relegated from the Premier League this season have come a long way over the past decade, but it hasn't been an enjoyable path for the Saints. Just 10 years ago, Southampton had managed to assemble one of the best teams in the world. You heard that right, not just in the Premier League, but the entire world. Wait till you hear about some of the insane names who used to start for the Saints back then. From Liverpool stars Sadio Mane and Virgil van Dijk to Gareth Bale, Southampton became one of the biggest talent factories in the 2010s. But like many other stories of smaller clubs flourishing for a brief period of time before their players move on to bigger things, Southampton's rise wasn't too long-lived either. It's an interesting part of modern football that needs to be called out more often. How can we expect clubs who don't have endless funds to compete today? Is there a realistic path for clubs like Southampton to compete with the big boys in the Premier League long term? Today, we're going to take you back a decade to a time when the Saints attempted to do exactly that. We'll talk about how they managed to reach such ambitious highs on their humble financial backing. Then we'll analyze their performances at the peak of their team's quality. And finally, we'll understand why it's almost impossible for the smaller clubs to sustain their short successes. This is how the Saints went marching in 10 years ago. Southampton have always been a team with a proud history. Nicknamed the Saints, the club spent much of its time battling in England's top divisions. They were founding members of the Premier League in 1992 and became known for their feisty spirit in the 90s. Now, they have been ambitious over the years, but silverware isn't easy to come by. Their only major trophy came in 1976, an FA Cup title they won by defeating Manchester United. But the early 2000s were tough for the club. After being relegated from the Premier League in 2005, they struggled in the lower leagues while also facing financial problems. By 2009, things began to change. Markus Lieber took over the club and began rebuilding from scratch. His strategy, a hefty focus on the academy and its youth development, along with the best value scouting possible. This paid off in a big way, and Southampton's recruitment was second to none in terms of identifying and signing underrated gems. Under manager Nigel Atkins, they climbed back up the ranks, achieving back-to-back promotions from League One to the Premier League by 2012. Their top-flight return was followed by 2 years of Pochettino's gegenpressing magic, and then 2 years of Koeman's impressive push to climb further up. This marked the beginning of one of the most remarkable underdog stories in Premier League history. The 2010s were meant to be a period of ambitious rebuilding. For a club like Southampton, this meant turning talented players over for profit when the time came. This worked for two reasons to make it a win-win for the club and players. Firstly, the players who made a mark at the club and attracted attention from bigger teams would want to fulfill their ambitions and move on. Secondly, Southampton needed to make these profits to sustain their long-term ambitions. This worked hand in hand as long as there was a continuous inflow of cheap gems and an outflow of valuable players. Their return to the Premier League wasn't just about survival, it was about building something special. The club started to develop a global reputation for identifying hidden gems and turning them into future stars. They had a scouting and recruitment department that punched far above its weight. With a clear focus on player development and clever transfers, they assembled a squad that would go on to challenge the league's elite. By the 2015-16 season, the Saints had one of the most exciting teams in England. Players like Virgil van Dijk, Sadio Mane, Dusan Tadic and Victor Wanyama were at the heart of their success. These were players who had been signed for modest fees but were performing at a world-class level. Van Dijk was signed from Celtic in 2015 for £13 million. His composure and leadership in defence were unmatched, and it didn't take too long for him to become the most sought-after defender in the world. In fact, Guardiola was rumoured to be chasing his signature back in 2016. But when asked about it in a press conference, he laughed the idea off. Then Klopp acted less than 2 years later. He didn't hesitate in breaking the world record transfer fee for a defender at the time. The Dutch centre-back went for £75 million. There were lots of similar profitable turnovers which helped the club further invest into talented but undervalued players. The cycle kept going. Let's quickly go over some of the other brilliant pieces of business they did during this period. Sadio Mane came from Red Bull Salzburg in 2014 for close to £12 million. He almost immediately became one of the most electric dribblers in the league. This is also where he made the Premier League record for the fastest hat-trick by scoring 3 goals in just 2 minutes and 56 seconds against Aston Villa. He was one of the most dynamic wingers in the league from 2014 to 2016 before Klopp picked him up and turned him into a bigger beast. Mane was sold for £34 million 2 years after he arrived at Southampton. Dusan Tadic was a creative force bought from FC Twente and signed for close to £11 million in 2014. He left for Ajax in 2018 and put up some really impressive numbers there. Victor Wanyama was the tireless engine of the team, a midfield enforcer who joined from Celtic for just £12.5 million in 2013. Pochettino would work with him at Southampton before bringing him to his next club in 2016, Tottenham Hotspur. He went on to create one of the most physically dominant double pivots in the world with Moussa Dembele at Spurs. These players and many more with raw talent came to Southampton during this period and left as elites of the sport. At the same time, the club earned hefty profits, which enabled them to plan ahead with more ambition and purchasing power. The 2015-16 season was a special one for Southampton FC. Under the guidance of Dutch manager Ronald Koeman, the Saints reached unprecedented heights in the Premier League. They finished 6th in the table, which was their highest ever finish in the modern era. This achievement earned them a spot in the UEFA Europa League, making it a moment of immense pride for the club and its fans. They started the season in mixed form. By Christmas, they were floating around mid-table positions. The popular verdict was that they would struggle to match the intensity of their previous campaign, but the team, full of soon-to-be stars, bounced back in the second half of the season. A series of standout performances saw them slowly climb up the table. Their home form was too good, with the loud Saints faithful singing with heart. St Mary's had one of the loudest home supports in the country that season. That season saw many players shine. Mane was almost unbeatable on the wing. His speed and directness terrified defenders. Van Dijk completely transformed the defense like he would do at Liverpool a few years later. He was calm, commanding, and a leader at the back. In midfield, Wanyama provided strength and balance, while Tadic created chances and provided crucial assists. Up front, Graziano Pelle led the line with power and finesse, scoring bangers throughout the season. One of the most memorable moments came in May 2016, when the Saints thrashed Pellegrini City 4-2 at St Mary's Stadium. Mane stole the show with a stunning hat-trick, showing his incredible pace and composure in front of goal. This win over City was part of a strong finish to the campaign, as Southampton only lost 1 of their last 10 league matches. They won 4 of the last 6. Their defensive solidity was another key factor. The Saints kept 12 clean sheets in the league that season. Van Dijk and Fraser Forster were instrumental in this success. The club's rise from League One just a few years earlier to competing with the Premier League's elite felt like a dream. Finishing above traditional giants like Chelsea and Liverpool made it even sweeter. They finished just 3 points below both clubs from Manchester. It was a testament to their hard work, smart recruitment, and tactical discipline. The Saints competed with Europe's elite next season, proving that even smaller clubs could dream big. The 6th place finish brought hope and excitement for the future. With European football on the horizon, fans believed the club could continue its rise. There was optimism that Southampton could keep their key players and build on their success level after level. Koeman's tactical approach also stood out. He set up his team to be well organised at the back while allowing his attacking players a lot of freedom to express themselves. His calm presence and clear instructions earned the respect of fans and players alike. But by the end of the season, he ended up making the biggest mistake of his career by leaving the ambitious Southampton project for Everton's umpteenth rebuild. After 2 years of promising progress, the manager left and soon key players followed. The club's reliance on selling stars eventually became a challenge. Players like Mane and Wanyama left in the summer, leaving huge gaps in the squad. These departures left a void that was difficult to fill. The replacements often failed to live up to expectations, and Southampton struggled to maintain their previous quality. They slid down the Premier League table, narrowly avoiding relegation on multiple occasions. Despite the high hopes after 2015-16, the next few seasons showed how tough it is for smaller clubs to sustain success in the Premier League today, and the gap is only widening. Eventually, the Saints went down to the Championship in 2023. Now they came right back up, but now find themselves at the bottom of the Premier League table. They are favourites to get relegated once again. This says a lot about the concerning and widening gap between the Premier League quality and the Championship. The sport is slowly being taken away from the fans and succumbing to a corporate mindset. Southampton, well, their ambitious run from 2012 to 2016 remains a proud moment in their recent history. Their story highlights the depth of challenges that smaller clubs face in modern football. While the Saints managed to stay competitive for a considerable period of time, the constant rebuilding took its toll. It became clear that sustaining success in the Premier League requires more than just a good scouting system. Can you name any club apart from the so-called Premier League Big Six that can realistically challenge for the title year after year? Even 10 years from now, do you think clubs like Southampton even have a realistic chance at aiming for the top? Let us know below. Oh, and before you leave, here are 3 well-known players you might not have known also played for the Saints. Luke Shaw, who was a product of their academy and broke through as one of the best young left-backs in the world. Adam Lallana was another academy graduate who later went to Liverpool for £25 million. Dejan Lovren was brought for £8.5 million from Lyon and sold to Liverpool a year later for £20 million. Can you name any other Southampton players who people will find hard to believe once played for them? Let us know in the comments below.